What'll happen to Hamas in the long run? I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of popular support, undoubtedly, but there's overwhelming popular support within the Palestinian territories for something like the international consensus, two-state settlement on the international border of the kind that the PLO formally accepted in December 1988. I mean, we might remember what happened then. You know, the people who hold the clubs dislike history. For them, history's bunk. You know, it's antiquated, boring, let's go on. The people who are beaten by the clubs generally think that history is important, and it is. And people who want to understand the world should be with the victims on this. Yes, history is important. You can understand why the powerful want to kick it in the dustbin, but we shouldn't. So what happened when the Palestinian National Council accepted a two-state settlement, basically the international consensus, the overwhelming international consensus, in December 1988? Well, there was a coalition government in Israel, Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Shamir coalition government. They came out a few months later, I think it was May '89, with an official statement in which they said there can be no additional Palestinian state between Israel and Jordan. The word additional means Jordan is a Palestinian state. So there can be no additional Palestinian state between them. And the fate of the territories will be settled in accord with the guidelines of the State of Israel. Okay, that was their official response to the Palestinian acceptance of the international consensus. What did the U.S. do? This is the Bush #1 administration. The Bush #1 administration reacted by accepting it completely in what's called the Baker Plan, the State Department's Baker Plan, James Baker Plan of December 1989, which endorsed the Israeli government proposal completely. The only reporting of this here that I could find was that they said, the State Department said, well, there should be free elections. There should be free elections in Palestine with most of the educated sector in jail, and the elections should take place only within, the only topic that can come up in the elections is the Israeli plan. There'll be a free election, so that shows we're interested in democracy promotion. And there was a lot of applause to the Bush administration for promoting democracy. See if you can find something else. I mean, as I wrote at the time, and I'll repeat it now, it's as if someone were to propose that there can be no additional Jewish state in the former Palestine, because there already is a Jewish state, namely New York City, where there's a Jewish mayor and, you know, a lot of rich Jews and so on and so forth. And if somebody were to say that, we'd think it's a reversion to Nazism. But when we say it, it's very forthcoming and shows our love of democracy and so on.
Hi there. Professor Chomsky, you've several times referred to the Israeli barrier wall. I've seen the maps of that wall, and goodness knows it's got some funny little squiggles in there. But you don't have it here on your map on page 180. I've certainly never seen this whole corridor straight to the Jordan east of Ma'ale Adumim. How is it you omitted the route of that barrier wall from this map, sir?
Because that's not a route of the barrier wall. That's, if you take a look at the caption, you'll see that that is the Israeli government proposal at Camp David in the year 2000. That's the Israeli government proposal, final proposal at Camp David in the year 2000. I took it from an article by the leading Israeli specialist on the topic, Ron Pundak, who's the Director General of the Paris Foundation on International Peace in Tel Aviv. This happens to be an article in English, which is why I took the map. It's in Survival, the British International Affairs Journal. He and Shaul Arieli, who's one of the top negotiators for Israel, they published a very long article about it, but that one's in Hebrew. So I paraphrased it in the same chapter and, you know, didn't cite it because I can't cite a Hebrew article. I mean, I cited it, but couldn't quote it literally, so I paraphrased it. So yeah, that's a discussion. That is in the context of the discussion of the U.S.-Israeli proposals at Camp David in 2000, which were being hailed as magnanimous and magnificent, and if Palestinians don't accept them, it shows they're terrible, and so on and so forth. There is discussion, if you read further in the book, of the later maps that are proposed. I didn't actually give the map, but there's a reference there to a long article in Haaretz, which did give a map. If you look it up on Google, it's in Hebrew, you will find the proposed map, I think, as of, I think it's October 2005, but if you look further, you'll see the reference there, and all you have to do is go to the internet and you'll find the map. It's not identical with the proposal in the year 2000, but it's basically the same principle except more extreme, because it not only breaks Palestine occupied territories through the there are two major salients, remember. There's the Ma'ale Adumim salient, the one that goes east of Jerusalem. That's the one that in Pundak's map goes all the way to the Jordan Valley, which Israel's going to keep, as they've announced. So that's one that essentially breaks the southern part from the rest. And there's a second salient that goes through Ariel, the city of Ariel, farther north. And the separation wall now goes around that and farther to the east. And that effectively separates the central ghetto, the enclave, whatever you want to call it, from the northern one. So you get three enclaves. If you have a look at the further implementations of the separation wall, you can find them if you look at the B'Tselem reports, for example. They're all on the internet. You'll see that it also separates all of them from some little corner of East Jerusalem. So it basically breaks the outcome is exactly what I described. I quoted a lot of Israeli and other authorities on the outcome. Meron Ben-Venisti, Harvard University's Sarah Roy, and others. And yeah, that's a description of where the situation stood as of the time that the book went to press. But you can find the maps. The map that I included was in a discussion of the Camp David proposals and the falsification of them here. So I didn't see a single newspaper anywhere which reported the Israeli maps. In fact, I'll tell you something more interesting. It's very hard to do a LexisNexis search for maps. You know, there's no easy way to do that. It takes resources, which I don't have. But nobody in the United States, and a lot of people were looking, could find any map in the press at the time of Camp David. Any map which showed exactly what is being proposed. There was a lot of effusive rhetoric about how forthcoming it is and magnanimous and wonderful. Well, there's an easy way to determine that. Look at the map. But the trouble is, to look at a map, you had to carry out a research project. So I actually did. I looked at the Israeli maps at the time and wrote about them. But for the population of the United States, there's no way to do that. I don't know about other countries, but as far as I can tell, they weren't published elsewhere either. This one was published, but it was in a strategic analysis journal, serious strategic analysis journal in England.